Yeah. So what? It's your boy, Bitz and Bobz. Ladies and gentlemen, as we say in Edinburgh, happy Hogmanay. But obviously, we have got an English person on my show today, so I'm going to say Happy New Year's Eve. So, guys, the introduction is going to be a bit long today. So, what we're going to do, I'm just going to hail this guy. I'm going to call him the leader of the new pack, the leader of the football terrace, Mr. Recruitment, Mr. Gave me a job on the football terrace, Mr. has put me on the YouTube planet. Mr. Terry, how are you doing today? You all right?
Mate, I'm good. I'm good. It's New Year's Eve, a day off from actually watching matches. My team is second, 3 points behind Liverpool, and yeah, all is good in my life right now. So happy days.
Brilliant. So obviously we were talking before here. How was your Christmas?
Do you know what? It was, barring not being able to see anyone outside of sort of my family I live with, it was a little tough in that regard. I'm used to seeing my dad and my brothers and cousins and some close friends. Aside from that, it was really nice. You know, it was really nice and chilled and, you know, really good food, a few too many drinks and everything else. Plus, football's always been a big part of my Christmas since being a kid. As a family, it's always been a big part of it. And having lots of football on as well has been great. It's kind of helped break things up. So yeah, overall the kids loved it. They got their presents, and my little daughter, this was the first time she's really been into Christmas, and she was so excited. So it was lovely to see. So yeah, overall really nice, mate. How about yourself?
It was good. Family, just like you, family. My son enjoyed so much. He can understand Christmas. So he woke up, Father Christmas has been, we left footprints of Santa Claus on it. You know, it was messy. So I advise, if you're going to do it, don't use flour, use something fake. But, you know, it was good. And I'm very fortunate, man. It's been a tough year, but Christmas just sprinkled the good stuff on top. Do you know what I mean? It was nice. Yeah. It just made me feel a lot more grateful and humble. Now, I've just mentioned the year. I mean, 2020 has been, let's say, a shit year for some people, has been an opportunity for some people, has been ups and downs. In a few sentences, what's 2020 been for you?
Do you know, 2020 is bittersweet for me because in my professional career, it's been astounding. The growth it's the biggest year the football terrace has ever had. We got some stats through today. They sent me like an email. 27 million individual viewers we've had. So individual people that have watched the content is 27 million people, which, you know what, for some YouTubers is average, but for the vast majority of YouTubers globally, it's astronomical. And for me, it was my mind was blown when I saw that. The biggest growth in terms of new subscribers, around 71,000 this year, something along those lines. That's been great. What I do in my day job in the financial world, I've had a fantastic year. Really great progression there. So in that element of my life and the financial ramifications that has and what that does for me and my family and my sort of and my wider family has just been life-changing. I can't even deny it. It's been a life-changing year from a professional standpoint. On a personal level, it's been difficult because I feel like I haven't been able to celebrate that like I would want to with friends and family. Equally, my son, my oldest son, lives in Ireland with his mum, and you know I used to see him very regularly. So before we started school, it was twice a month. I'd fly there, pick him up, bring him back. When he started school, it was a little less frequent because of course he had school. I'd fly out there for a week, and in half terms have him. So every other weekend, every 2 to 3 weekends, I'd fly out and see him, or I would, and I'd always have him at half terms. But of course, 2020 has stopped that from happening because even when it's been kind of, it's okay to fly, I didn't really want him in airports, on airplanes, in this environment, you know. So so that's been a real dampener this year, that I've only been able to see him twice in the whole of 2020, which for me is a great thing for technology. I get to FaceTime every day. I talk to him every day. We speak every day. So that's great. But yeah, so it's been, I'd say, a bittersweet year. Some elements of 2020 have been off the charts, beyond my wild dreams. And there are other elements where I just feel angry every day because I'm not a control freak, but I can't it's not my fault I can't see my son, and that makes me angry because it's something stopping me, and I don't like things in my way, especially when I can't control. If it was something in my way that I could work on and get and create a hurdle for or get around it, I'm fine. But it just frustrates me because I can't do anything about it. And yeah, so it's a very bittersweet year, to be honest.
It's tough, isn't it? You know. Obviously, I'm going to say what we do because I'm now. Obviously, I'm on the Football Terrace. I do YouTube, but I'm gonna exaggerate that. What you do is, we have a saying in our community: the devil works hard, but I work harder. So when I think about you, I think to myself, wow, the devil works hard, but you work harder. Because the funny thing about what you do, you don't realize the time, the effort, the strain, the energy you use to do all of that, as well as be the father, be the partner, be yourself, and actually think for yourself. There's only 24 hours in one day, but you and I, in fact, this is not about me, it's about you. Your 24 hours is completely different to someone else's 24 hours. And, being obviously getting to know you and knowing you off from YouTube, I can see that, and I have to say, I salute and admire your work ethic. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna go to the Football Terrace, right? Because for me, when lockdown started in March, I'll never forget that. I was at work, and then we all got pulled into a meeting room. Said, "There's a virus. You're gonna have to work from home." Now, I was thinking. I texted my wife. I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna be working from home." She laughed. She was like, "Yeah, whatever." So then I came home. And then I woke up and I didn't go to work. And she was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Yeah, there's this virus coming on." And there was no football stopped and so on. Yeah. So for me, I was like, I need my football fix. I couldn't play football. So I was just like, what the hell? So I'm going to start watching YouTube football, right? And I type in football podcast. Lo and behold, the Terrace comes up. So I'm like, who's this guy? Like, what's this guy doing? What's he saying? I was like, okay, cool. Man United fan? All right, okay, cool. Click subscribe. And then I started watching. I was like, raw, this guy's actually making my day. Stream after stream after stream. I'm like doing the dishes listening to you. I'm looking at my son while he's playing toys and I'm still listening to you in the background. I'm thinking, raw. And then obviously I watched the Man United show, the Chelsea show, the Arsenal show, Circus Club. But like, I still like think to myself, like, wow, this guy's a busy guy. What does he do? And then I started watching you. Now, when I say watching you, I started listening to how you presented stuff, conversations you had, the clickbait stuff. Then I started learning. So my question is to you, yeah, why the Football Terrace? Why you called it the Football Terrace? What made you start it?
So I'll go with the second question first because it'll make more sense. So I knew what YouTube was. But during London 2012, I was doing two things. I was the bank manager, a Barclays branch in the East End of London. So we were in the middle of the Olympics. So we were right there.
Got you.
So we were right in the middle of it. And I grew up in the East End of London. So it was like the Olympics came to town. It was actually quite emotional when that happened because it was the East End when I grew up was horrible but beautiful for me. We're like rustic beauty for a Cockney East Ender, and then suddenly we had this big event. So there was like a 10-year period where all this money was spent on our local. I mean, I always tell this story about how I laughed once when I was out with my in-laws walking the dog, and what are you laughing at? I said they're painting the lamppost, and it was a lovely battleship grey. And they're like, why is that funny? I said when we were kids, we had to do a 10-mile walk to raise money, so that a playground could be built with 2 swings and a seesaw. Now they're painting a lamppost with money. Like the investment was crazy. So I was doing that, but at the same time, I was also the president of a Man United London supporters club, which so me and a group of guys put it together because although everyone says all the United fans from London, out of my whole friend group, only really me and one other guy were United fans, and I just wanted to do 2 things. I was already traveling to Man United every other weekend for games. I had a season ticket. But it was a case of I just wanted to, when I was in London watching football, I wanted to meet up with Man United fans and watch it together. And then maybe create a group that could travel up together. It makes it easier, makes it cheaper, a bit more enjoyable. And this thing was massive. After 2 years, we named it the Devil's Bus because we started off by getting a minibus up there. And then it grew to us taking over entire trains on Virgin. It was huge. A guy drum that I know well, we used to do it together. So those 2 things are happening. Man United launched onto the stock exchange. And randomly, I got a call from Sky It was the Ian Bolton, I think his name is, show.
Okay.
Big show, high news, and they ring me up and say, "Do you want to come into the studio? Ian wants to interview someone involved with Man United. You're from the supporter side. Where are you based?" I said, like Stratford, basically. He said, "Oh, that's where the studio is. We're in the Olympic Park." So I got taken in through all the crowds. I got taken into the middle of the Olympic Park during the Olympics. It was just a buzz. Sat in the Sky studios, did the interview and gave my opinions on why it's good and bad that we're being put on the market. And then 5, 6, 7 other news companies wanted to talk to me, so I started doing that. And then and that was kind of it. And then about a month later, this YouTube company came to me, the Full-Time Devils, and they were like, "Look, we're starting a YouTube channel. We'd love to get you involved." So I started doing. They weren't doing fan cams at the beginning either. It was just like preview shows on YouTube. I started doing that, and I thought I really enjoy this. So I set up my own little channel, which was called the Devil's Bus TV. So we were the first YouTube channel that were doing kind of independently, that were doing sort of reviews and previews and everything like this in sort of 2012, Man United based. I think Red Men TV already existed. Full-Time Devils just started. I was doing it, but the only way I did it was all on the bus. It was called the Devil's Bus TV because it was me and all the United fans traveling up to Manchester. So I'd film us singing songs on the way up. I'd film us in the pubs. I'd do interviews after the games, like one of the first versions of fan cams. But it was all just a hobby. I had no ideals of it growing and becoming what it has as the Football Terrace and the industry thing. I just did it like that. I would say for up until about 2017, like that, and I didn't really take it seriously. You know, we were the first YouTubers to ever do watch-alongs, but we did everything sporadically. There was no plan. There was no continuity. It was like, okay, I've done watch-alongs 5 games running, and then I might go 3 weeks without making a video because it was a hobby. And then essentially in the summer of 2017, I had some beefs with people online because I started to get my nose got put out of joint a bit because I started to see YouTubers they were using what I considered my ideas, and that didn't bother me. I always find a sense of pride in that. But it was when I then started doing content, that content again, I was getting attacked for being a copycat, and it annoyed me that these YouTubers wouldn't just simply say, "Oh, listen, guys, leave Terry alone. Terry was the first to do this, or one of the first to do it. He's doing his thing. Let him crack on." There was none of that message. It was silence from multiple channels, and I threw my toys out. I was an idiot. To be honest with you, my reaction was immature and stupid. I threw my toys out my pram. I went on the attack, giving them crap online. For whatever reason, I felt that it would win me more of an audience, and it would make everybody think, "Oh, they're bad people. Terry's great." But that didn't really happen. Everyone dug their heels in. They backed their people, and I just got more abuse from it, and it kind of damaged me. Like mentally, it like just took its toll. And then I sort of had an epiphany where I was like, "Do you know what? I want to move away from being a Man United fan channel because I don't just want to speak to Man United fans. I respect the achievements of these other YouTubers and what they've done. Them as people is one thing, but them as a platform and what they've done. The United stands, the True Geordies, the AFTVs. I was in awe of what they've achieved. And I'm like, I don't want to be like them in every element. There's certain things they do, which I like, and I'm going to do similar. And there's going to be bits that are different. And that's the way it is. But my decision in the summer of 2017 was I'm going to focus on me, and I'm going to stop barring when I banter people with the fan channel review shows. I'm going to stop beefing with people and put energy into me. Since then, we've grown from, I think, 9,000 subs to 181,000. And the growth's just been, it's been like a snowball. So, I don't know, we grew by 30,000 in 2017, 28, about 20,000. Then it was up by 30,000. Every year, the jump's just been bigger up until this year, which was 71,000. And I changed the name to the Football Terrace for 2 reasons. Because I believe that the global fan base and the armchair fan base are important, especially for the financial element of football. But the British terraces are imperative to our game, and the unique noise that our terraces make, for me, add 20, 30, 40% enjoyment to watching a game of football. I can't wait for the first game to return where you actually hear Old Trafford, where you hear St. James's Park, when you hear Stamford Bridge, when you hear White Hart Lane, Upton Park. I know it's not called, I like calling it that. When you hear the roar of the crowd, that for me, it's just beautiful. And I wanted to kind of pay homage to that as we moved into the new digital age, if that made sense. So I just thought the Football Terrace works. It's kind of an old-fashioned quirk name. So that's what I did. And And even then, though, the transfer stuff, the clickbait king stuff, that stayed consistent now for 3 years. And I embrace that name. I don't care that people call me it, because I know what we do. We put the headline out and then we discuss it and we debate it. If I put out the true thoughts of what around a headline, whether I think it's true or not, nobody would click on it and watch. If nobody's clicking, and by the way, every YouTuber does what they do for views, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be on YouTube. Everyone that puts a tweet out, an Instagram post out, we're all attention seekers, because if you didn't want attention, you'd send it to a mate privately. You'd sit there and talk in the mirror. Like, by definition, we all want attention. So you do what you can to stand out, because I want to get my opinions heard. It's why I do what I do. So that then happened. And interestingly, you mentioned lockdown. And I kind of been up and down with all the different ideas. I did UFF stuff. I did this and that and the other. And it was during lockdown that we started to create this amazing community. We already had good people involved: Neeks, Adam, Charles, and a few others. And then lockdown happened, and it put us in a position where we just grew. KJ got involved, Cameron got involved, yourselves got on board. I can't even remember everyone's names. Jem, Monstar, Anita has been like one of the best additions that the channel has ever had. Maya's involved, Kendall's involved. We've got Elena now, Alex, and there's names I'm going to forget. Ram, Prime, just all these characters that we then onboarded. I test. They all got involved and in different ways, and I'm like, this is what I was looking for. It was almost it happened. It was almost like 50% by luck and 50% by design. But what I then found is what I've been searching for 3 years, but I didn't quite know I was looking for that. It's like, this is what I want. Rival fans that can talk about each other's teams. One thing in life that annoys me in recent years is if you're not part of something, you're told you're not allowed to have an opinion on it. Like, you're not a woman, you can't have an opinion on a woman's issue. You're a man, you can't have not a man, you can't have an opinion on a man's issue. You know, if you're not a Man United fan, you can't talk Man United. I find that a very backwards and dangerous mindset to have when it comes political. When it comes to football, it's like, bro, if I grew up in London, my classroom had 20 different football teams supported in my year at school. So we all spoke about each other's teams. And that's what I wanted to create online. And getting all the new guys on board and ladies on board enabled that. And we've just gone from strength to strength ever since. And I think the two things that stand out to me is I stopped focusing on other people. And I mentioned what Rance has said, or what Robbie has said, or what DT's doing, but it's really and truly just a bit of, it's okay, they said this, I've said that, a bit of banter goes in there as well. But I stopped focusing any negative energy towards other people and focus and I harness that into, let's grow me. Let's make what I do better. Let me be the best version of myself. And I think that will help me as an individual. So I do that. And the other element is find your niche, find what you're great at. And you know, the biggest thing for me that stood out is I know that everyone's at home, but no one did it at the start. Every other major fan channel now does a fan forum style match reaction show now. And there's a part of me that's like, I wish they weren't, because then I'd have more opportunity to grow mine. But it's another little moment for me where I'm like, I invented watch-alongs. I was the first person to do them on social media. And it's a real honor when I see what True Geordie and Goldbridge have done with it. Now, I'm not even sure if True Geordie knows that I was one of the first people to do it, but it's how those guys have elevated. It's like, that was my idea. And with the fan forum thing, I was the one who first started doing that as a match reaction. I didn't start fan forums. No one's claiming that. But it's like, now what I can do is I want to grow it, and I'm going to keep moving it. And I think, when you're onto a good thing where other people start to do the same thing. Lee Gunner's a good friend of mine. Lee Gunner's a good friend of mine. And he's like, Terry, the tiering thing you do, what's the website? I want to start doing them. It's like, I'm not going, Lee, why are you taking my ideas? It's like, there you go, bruv. That's the website. Go do you. Do you get what I mean? And for me, it's like, and the biggest reason for that, it's how you bring this all together, is where I was wrong back in my days of moaning about other people copying my ideas is if I won those arguments and everybody else stopped doing them because Terry first thought of it, you shrink the YouTube market. By more people doing it, you grow it, and everybody does better. And I think that's the one thing that I got wrong, and still even the big YouTubers get it wrong now. There isn't enough collaborating outside of your little circles. You always see the same people collaborate with the same people. And that's fine for a small period of time, but then you hit a ceiling, and it's like you now need to step out of that and further and further. And for me, that's a really long answer, but it's such a deep one of how I've got to this point and stage, and and it's now what's next for us. We've got 2 or 3 really big things in the pipeline with Give Me Sport and a couple of other companies. Amazon, we're in discussions with about being part of a process with them. There's a few people interested in sponsoring the show. And I suppose the longer term plan is to eventually take this away from being completely digital, like it is now, and doing these shows where we're all in the same room together. That would kind of be the kind of end goal that I want to have. But of course, that's where you then need more members, sponsorship, and an element of corporate backing, because it costs a lot of money.
100%.
Hire those areas, but we want to do it. But the reason it's hard is I've had meetings with one company that were looking to pay for that, but then they want to control 50%, 60% of the narrative, and that's the most important.
Politics.
I can't. The football terrace doesn't work if the panelists can't say exactly what they want. As soon as you take it, and say you can't say these 10 things, you can't chat negatively about this player because he's one of our ambassadors or whatever. It's like it dies for me. So yeah, that's kind of how we started, how we got here, a little bit of my personal journey within it, and yeah, we seem to be in a really good space now.
And for those that are listening and those that are watching, I want to watch it back. Please run what he just said that back, because what Terrace just said, there's a lot of things you can actually take and treat it to your own individual life as well, especially during this lockdown. And the part about not focusing on negative energy, that screams loud to me, because when I decided to do YouTube, was obviously because I watched you, I watched other people and stuff, and I thought, actually, I'm black, I'm Scottish. You don't really see that.
No, not very often.
And I thought, I'm funny. All my guys up here, all the man them up here, they're like, yeah, you should do it. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so like you have started something, and with the collabing thing, with you bringing me on the Football Terrace, I've been able to do shows with Anita, Monster, Prime. I've been on Aaron's show. I've helped Flawless and stuff, and like stuff like that. People don't realize that you're actually creating a bigger community, wider than just the Football Terrace. It's like, if you look beneath the surface and you look outside the box, like what you're starting is a massive football community, and it's right now it's virtual, and then God willing, when everything's safe, it's going to be like actually physical, which is amazing, and I salute you for that. I want to ask you this question. I've got to ask. A certain black Scotsman pops up on YouTube and is on a channel with a few individuals talking about Bruno, Lingard, and so on. What made you think, I'm going to get this guy? I've got to ask.
Do you know what it is for me? It's a sense, it's a click. It's sort of like it's a feeling rather than anything else. I hear certain people speak. I'm like, yeah, that vibe is good for what I need. And recently happened with Alfie. It recently happened with Zayn, the Liverpool fan. We've got involved. Gabrielle, who's the South African with the most amazing tone of voice. You're the same thing. All four of you are the four newest members. Elena as well. Eleanor. I keep calling her Elena. It's Eleanor.
Yeah, bro. What the hell?
You know what? When I say someone's name wrong once, DT can testify to this. I keep getting it wrong. He's got a player in his team called Jemiah, and I called him Jameer once. And every time I was doing commentary, my brain just automatically says it. I think it's because of my dyslexia. But yeah, so Eleanor and yourselves, is that when I watch your stuff, I laugh, I enjoy it, and I'm like, I want to bring that element to the Football Terrace. And what's interesting is to think about the 5 newbies that you're sort of part of. You're all very different from one another, and that's what works well. And what I look for is people that know their football, that are willing to speak up, willing to push back, not afraid to challenge me, which is so important, because yes, it's my platform and channel, and you've obviously been on the stream when we finish and we're all backstage afterwards. There's never a case of how dare one of you challenge me. I'm like, great, that was great, that was brilliant. More.
Yeah.
I want that, and I think that I just, my gut feeling was, Bitz and Bobz knows his football. Got good personality. He can speak, and it's not monotone and boring, and they're going to put you to sleep. And it's also a different voice because you've got the Scottish accent. I'm like, we haven't really got a lot of that. And I do like to, when I say diversity, I don't necessarily mean male, female, black, white, Asian, Christian, Muslim. That's almost deepening it too much. I don't really care about the immutable element of your character. It's more diversity and personality that I'm looking for. If I think about Aaron, KJ, Neeks, 3 United fans, to the naked eye from fairly similar demographics, but in terms of personality, the way they come across, all three are very, very different. And that's a diversity that I'm looking for. It's characters that can play off what I don't want. Again, like I feel a lot of other channels have become. You've got 2 or 3 big stars, but they're all pretty much the same sort of character. And you might get a little diversity by you've got a DT and a Ty, and they're like polar opposites of one another when they're frustrated. But that's kind of it. And so what I wanted was just, I want people like Ty, and we have got people like Ty. Igao is like Ty. Alex is like Ty. And I want people like DT, because listen, I'm not having a go at AFTV. It's just the greatest, one of the greatest pieces of entertainment. And I mean this sincerely to Robbie, one of the greatest pieces of entertainment this country has ever created. And I mean that. I would honestly, I've laughed as hard at AFTV as I have done at the greatest comedy in the history of the world, Only Fools and Horses. There are times where I've just had to pause, and it's brilliant. So you want that, but I wanted it wider, and I wanted a wider berth. And where I have the capacity for that is that with the Football Terrace, we cover the Big Six, which is now Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Leicester, +1, which is Arsenal. Arsenal now the +1. My hope is Leicester fans are going to be added to this. We're going to bring them involved. And I think it's a new thing for people to sit there. And, you know, what's really amazing about the Football Terrace is when Chelsea lose and they're talking about it, but they've got Arsenal and Tottenham and Man United fans giving them stick. That don't happen anywhere else. Really. It doesn't happen. And then what we open the phone lines up and let random people phone in and have their say. It just doesn't happen anywhere else. And that's what I'm proud of. So when it comes to picking someone like yourself, it's, can you add a new layer, a new dimension, something different to the Football Terrace that we don't already have? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Well, thank you for that, Terry. And that was just a little plug for myself. So yeah, hope everyone else is listening. No, you said diversity, okay? And you know, 2020 has been shadowed. You know, me and you have spoke. You know what I do up in Scotland. Yeah. One of the first black leaders from my company. I say company, my organization. And racism, man. You know, in football and society. Now, you said you grew up in London.
Yeah.
So I'm aware you'd have crossed Asian shops, chicken shops, African shops, Jamaican shops, Caribbean shops, on a whole wider. Because for me, I grew up in London. People don't realize this. I actually grew up in London before I moved to Scotland. And man, I never had racism in London. Do you know? Yeah. So what's your thoughts on racism and racism in football?
I mean, look, it's an interesting one, really, because I grew up in the East End of London. I didn't even see my friends experience, a bit like yourself. They didn't really experience any kind of what we saw as direct racism when we grew up. In my friends group, it was very diverse and very mixed in relation to that. And, you know, I just didn't hear or see anything. And I think that made me a little naive growing up. I then moved to Essex, and I saw it almost on day one. You just see a difference and a feel. Things people said about living in London, like, oh, what about these types of people and that type of person? I'm like, what?
Wow.
I remember the reaction from some kids towards black players in the England football setup, and you're sort of sitting there like, I felt it's sort of like, where's this coming from? Because I grew up in this environment that wasn't like that, and suddenly I moved 30 miles away from where I live. That's all it was, and the difference in view was there. And then you kind of realize a lot of it was ignorance and a lack of education, and what parents have been pumping into the ears of these children. And it is where it is. And I think for me, when it comes to my attitude towards racism is zero tolerance to a degree. Where I feel there needs to be an air of tolerance is people that have racist thoughts, and I think there are scales to it. Some people say things that are casually racist, or I don't like this phrase, like a little bit racist. They say things that are casually racist, or they say things that are more ignorant than hateful, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I feel that some people want the zero tolerance approach where you ostracize these people, and I think that's very dangerous, because I think that's what we've been doing. We've either ostracized, and that's just made people bury what they think and feel, and they've never really explored it, which I think creates an underbelly of this problem. I think more education, more integration is what's required to solve these problems. And I think the integration part is so important, because I was lucky enough to grow up with friends from Caribbean, from Jamaican, from Pakistani, Bengali, Polish, Czech backgrounds. I'm just thinking of people I know off the top of my head, Filipino, Chinese, everything, right? The mixture was massive. I knew, like, I just know my whole life. I know, like, there are differences, right, in terms of what foods people eat, music, certain behaviors at home. Like, some families dance, some families sit down and read books, like, and some of that is cultural.
Yeah.
Grace, pull that back. We're the same, you know. We all get hurt by the same things. We all kind of enjoy a lot of the same stuff. And football was that thing for me. Like, when it comes to football, it didn't matter if my boy was Bengali, my friend was Filipino, English like me. We had a French lad in my class, Turkish boys. When it comes to football, we talk football. And it's like, see, emotionally, we're pretty much the same. And that's how I just grew up. And then the older I've got, the more I've seen direct racism. And then you learn more. You have to listen. This is what I say to people that come from, I call myself almost sheltered from it because I grew up in diversity.
Yeah.
You've got to open your eyes and listen to people, the subtle things that people don't like. Can I touch your hair? You know, the sort of the assumptions that people make about you, the undertones that people make, how you get looked at when you walk into a store, as an example. And, you know, one thing that stood out to me around, people always ask me, do you think white privilege exists? And I'm like, I think sometimes we can take it too far and we can try and undermine everything. Say I've achieved. Terry, the only reason you are where you are is because you're white. I think that's disrespectful because I put a lot of work into it.
Yes,
where I do see white privilege is I've never traveled from London back to Essex or from London to where I live now in Surrey and been sent back to where I've come from due to the color of my skin. Now, my boys, it hasn't happened since I've come to Surrey, but when they used to come visit me in Essex, I would say twice a year, I'm like, where you at? Boys, I'm at the station. My mum's in. We were kids. My mum was at the station to pick you up. What's going on? Police stopped us. All right, okay. Do you have tickets? Yeah. But they just sent us back anyway. And I'm like, see, that didn't happen to any of my white pals coming up in the other direction. And these are the things it wasn't called white privilege when I was a kid. It didn't have a phrase like that, but I saw it. And I think that 2020 it always makes me question stuff. And I think what I try to do is I'll phone Neeks. I'll phone someone like you. I definitely phone Neeks. I'll phone someone like you. I've phoned Adam Charles a number of times. I'll phone my boys. Interestingly, this is where it does get confusing, is I'll get a variety of answers that vary on the spectrum of what they think and feel. But it's important to educate yourself and continue to, I think, because not enough people do that from all mannerisms. So I want to understand how somebody from that community feels about a certain subject. You know, if a big subject matter comes up about Islam, I'll phone my friends that are Muslim. I'm like, boys, can I have a chat with you about this? I don't get it, or I don't understand, or what's your thoughts? Because it's good to speak to people inside and outside. Because for me, the more people you speak to, the more you learn. You broaden your horizons, and that helps you understand. And you may not always agree, but it's the understanding. The understanding leads to tolerance. The acceptance and the tolerance is what leads to a more peaceful area, because you're never going to get 20 different cultures and 4 or 5 different religions to agree on exactly how to live your life perfectly. It's going to be different. But it's that sort of tolerance element that's needed. And you only get that through education and integration, as far as I'm concerned.
And do you know what, Terry? I'm never going to add to that, because I think what you said is spot on. For me, I need people with that attitude around me, and I'm very fortunate, you know, to have people around me with that attitude. And unfortunately, there are some minority people that are against black people, against Islam, against Christianity, and so on. But we need to educate, and this is why I say to people when it comes to the football stuff, you know, I don't know your thoughts on like the kick it out stuff, the t-shirts, blah, blah, the kneeling down. For me, yeah, all the money you put in towards that, say to the players, once every 2 weeks, you need to visit this class. You need to educate yourself in that. Because what I say to people is that if you go to a restaurant, or if you want to go to this restaurant, you're going to check the menu. You're going to check it all out. You're going to read about it. So when you get there, in your mind, you know what you're going to order. If you want to go online shopping, every Tom, Dick, and Mohammed goes Amazon shopping. Yeah, you find out the information before you order it, or you click buy now or put it in your basket. So when it comes to racism, use the same energy and find out. The other thing I want to just quickly touch upon is, because I think it's been very good. What people don't realize what you have done is people's mental health. You know, with the lockdown, I think being able to go on your TV or on your phone or your tablet or your laptop to watch YouTube, the Football Terrace, and other people that are doing the same thing, I think it's been brilliant for mental health. I saw something on 360 TV's. It wasn't them that posted it, but it was someone else that posted it. And they've just posted it, and they said it was something about, oh, YouTubers, it's not great quality, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, have you actually thought that the people are doing this because it's a nice release? People are doing it because they can't physically play football because of COVID restrictions. They can't engage with people from their work, so they go online to virtually speak with people to get into communication. I mean, mental health-wise, I mean, your thoughts on it swiftly, and, do you think, I mean, have you been messaged by people to say thank you for what you're doing for mental health and stuff like that? Because I think you don't realize yourself, let's not say power, but the aura, because you go on live, you stream, someone that's having a shitty day or feels like, God forbid, doing something to himself, can watch you and be like, yeah, actually, I feel better now. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you?
Yeah, I think mental health is, again, it's a bit like the previous subjects, sort of, when it comes to talking about racism and bigotry. Is the element of it that's both those subjects that are taboo. You mention it and people are like, oh, I don't want to listen. And mental health is definitely one of them. 2020, I think, is highlighted it even more because people have been isolated and they've been stuck indoors and haven't been able to live their lives. It's been, for me personally, it's been an absolute godsend and a privilege for me to have this audience and for it to have grown and to have been able to have communicated this whole time with people and have debate. I am aware of it, and I've had a lot of messages from people. Whether it's some people just sending me private messages, I've had others. Pav stands out. One of our regular viewers, Pav, sent a super chat and said, "Look, I'm donating this to the channel to help keep you going. Basically, you've helped me in this X, Y, and shape way." And you often don't think about it when you're doing it. And I think there's two things you need to try and do: whether you're tackling racism or trying to help tackle racism and equality. And equity is even more important than racism than equality. Equity. People feel valued in themselves is even more important, because often the opportunities are there and people don't feel like they don't value themselves enough to actually go for them, and it becomes a circle. So it's that. But I think what I try to do is not develop a show or use a certain panel of people to directly push those narratives. But it's there in the background, because I think when you directly push it, like you said, the kick it out campaigns, the t-shirts, the kneeling, it comes to a point where it can feel a little bit contrived, because what I want to see is genuine change. So exactly. I'm not saying you've got to make half of the, I don't know how many people sit on the board of the PFA, say it's 10 people. I'm not saying you've got to make 30% men, 30% women of a certain demographic, and then the rest of it has to be a splattering of ethnic and social diversity. You should pick the best people for the jobs, black, white, male, female, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, regardless, but equally give people that equal standing to move forward, because I'm sure there are, that's where I want to see action. I want to see senior people, people in football given senior jobs who are younger, who are not just 65-year-old white men that have been sitting there for 20 years. Give it to women. Give it to men from Afro-Caribbean backgrounds, the Muslim community, in football, the gay community, the underrepresentation there. That's what you need to do. Same with mental health. Saying to people like, oh, this show is here to tackle mental health. It's great doing that. I think it's about, let's create a show that's engaging. Read the comments. Yes, we specialize in the super chats because we pay respect to people that are paying them. And I spoke to a few of our viewers at a football match back in January, and I sort of said, like, I really appreciate the super chats, and they said, oh, it's great, like, I put it in, I love seeing my name up there, it really, really helps me, it gives me a boost as an individual. And I didn't really think about it from their point of view until they said it, and they're like, I like paying for it because I like seeing, like, when you read it out and then I see the chat talk about my super chat, that for me is like a buzz, and I'll pay for that because I love it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's what YouTube invented. Remember, the Football Terrace and the United Stand didn't invent super chats. YouTube did. Like, it's a YouTube thing. So I think if you create an engaging product, an engaging show, which everyone can get involved in, you've got the Discord server that we've now got set up, which people can engage in. You're helping to alleviate mental health issues in terms of loneliness or stress or someone not having an outlet, but without making it so contrived. Like, I don't want to stand on a hill and say, I'm Terry Flewers from the Football Terrace and I've helped to help people with mental health. I find that a little bit self-serving. I just want to create something that does that naturally. The same way going to a bar or going to the gym alleviates my mental stress. I want my show to do that. But the bar, you know, the gym isn't like, oh yeah, we set this gym up to relieve mental health issues. No, the gym's there to help you, make you be healthier in body and mind. The activity within it makes you healthier. You know, going to the bar with your friends, that social bonding is what alleviates stress and makes you feel better and can help your mental health. The bar isn't set up for mental health issues. Did you get what I mean? I want,
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah,
I want my shows to be to whether it be diversity, whether it be mental health. I want them to be a byproduct of a good show, and it's why we take feedback so seriously. And KJ will attest to this. I'm always up for how to make it better. Tell me how to make it better, because if you do that, I will act on it. If it's a bad idea, I will say no. There has to be a level of a sort of autocratic nature to it at times, but that's what we try to do. And mental health is important. People do need to talk more. People need to be more open about it. But I think as well, what we've got to learn to do, and the Football Terrace does it great, the level of banter we have with each other. And I think what's interesting is like the way we rip into Prime, as an example, and two back a Ram. What the viewers don't know is how much we're in contact with each other. Like we will message all day, every day in the group chat, which you're part of. I message these people privately. So when we're banging, it's like it's a group of friends now that are bantering each other rather than a bunch of strangers that come together on a stream. And that's what it's become. And we just want that to keep growing now and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And hopefully, as we say, you've now got a very diverse group of people from different backgrounds and cultures mixing. You've got people with different mental health issues mixing, hopefully showing a community that, you know, I'm a young black woman and I want to move into the sort of the YouTube and presenting world. Look what Anita's doing. Look what Maya's doing. Look what Eleanor's doing. They're killing it. You know, KJ's a great example. I mean, KJ's show now, Midnight Vibes, for me is one of the best shows on the, you know, and he's and you know what, his show's probably done the best out of everybody's individual show. And the reason is because I think he feels equity from me, because it's like, that's yours, run with it, go with it. He's got equity in the show. So he doesn't do a show for me. He creates a show for himself, but he's put so much work into making it something. The hope then is that show helps people who are stressed and can't sleep at night. Midnight Vibes is on. I struggle to sleep. I'm going to put that on. Equally, there could be another young black man out there. And I use KJ's demographic as an example, but this could be a young Bengali man. It could be a young Chinese man. It could be a young white English person rather than a black British person. It just going, you know what? I didn't think I'd ever get the chance to do it. Look what KJ's done. And it was only February where Terry and KJ, March maybe, they spoke for the first time. And since then, that's happened. Maybe I can go and do that. And if it can inspire one person, if it can help one individual feel better about themselves or feel more equity in themselves, then it's done its job by proxy in many ways. And I think that's the most important way to do it, rather than just ramming it down people's throats, because I think it loses its message. Like a bunch of footballers wearing a T-shirt saying mental health matters, I don't think it means too much. What are the clubs actually doing? What are the PFA actually doing to change things? And actions always speak louder than words to me. And that's what we've tried to do without boasting about it, if that makes sense. You know, 100%.
And I think it's testament to yourself to see you in this cloak where I say to everyone, not everyday football. And that's why, like, you know what you said at the beginning about, you saw what AFTV does, United Stand does, Geordie Show stuff and stuff like that, and then you take what you like from them and then you imprint your own personality and you imprint your own stuff. That's what I'm trying to do with this one here of Bitz and Bobz Meets. And I campaign for equality from top to bottom, and it has to start from the top to throw its way down to the bottom. But for me, it's like, it's interesting when I get to meet people like yourself virtually and think, you know, and I see what you do, I want to know what you think. And there is a sort of an influence because, you know, I'll probably get loads of views from this because you're on. That's the influence, because it's like, oh, I know what Terry's like. I'm going to go watch Terry. Terry's on Bitz and Bobz. Who's this guy? And like you said, it is about views and so on like that. But for me, personally, when you get to know me, I want more people talking about it. You know, I want to normalize the conversation, but I don't want to bash it down their throats. I don't want to be like, today we're just going to talk about racism. No, that's why, like, I influx it with football. And I'm going to wrap up with when I first spoke to you and stuff, I was saying on the terrace, I said, oh, we can win the league a couple months ago. And I'm not gonna bait you up here and say, yeah, Terry say you can win the league. I said it, you know, and in the position a couple of months ago, we weren't in a very good position, crashed out Champions League, ratatata. But here what I'm saying, Terry, We are second now.
Yes.
We've not been playing good, you know. I was on a Liverpool show yesterday. I gave a lot of stick to one of my good friends who's a Liverpool fan because he's been ducking me. I mean, okay, I'm not going to ask you, are we going to win the league? Okay. All I'm going to say to you, all I'm going to ask you is that, what is your thoughts of Man United's initial first half of the season?
Do you know what's interesting? I'm enjoying seeing the progression. I've scathed and ranted about a handful of performances that weren't good enough. I was frustrated with the transfer window in terms of how we operated. Mm-hmm. And I meant the things I said when I said them. Do you know a really interesting thing for me is a strength of character of any adult is to be able to not so much admit when you get things wrong. When it comes to predicting football and reacting instantly to football, you're always going to get things wrong. It's natural. Or this player is a flop. I don't think he's going to make it. And then a year later, he's killing it. You know, these things just happen, and you've got to take the banter that comes along with that. But equally admit to yourself, you know what, I got that wrong. We had eye test on yesterday. Man was confessing. He was like, I've literally wanted to say nice things about Ollie and Rashford for months, but my ego was stopping me, and that's half the issue. So we've got a lot better since the beginning of the season, and there's still been a few bumps in the road. Going out of the Champions League wasn't particularly great, but you know, sometimes when it comes to you know, if you watch like a good, I've watched a lot of box sets during lockdown and in the last year. Like I've never seen The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, or Sons of Anarchy until this period, and then I just sat there and binge watched them during lockdown and everything. And you know, when you watch them, you get to all the finale seasons, and things that might have happened 3 or 4 seasons ago suddenly become prevalent in something that happens right near the end.
Yeah.
The story becomes what? You notice it more when you binge watch, because there isn't a 5-year. In reality, between season 1 and season 7 of Sons of Anarchy, there's 7-8 years, right? You don't remember these things as well. When you've watched them all in 5 weeks, it brings it all together. Yeah. And for me, the 6-1 loss to Tottenham, the bad start to the season, if we'd have signed Cavani any other summer barring this one, fans would have been overtly buzzing about it, because we did that with all the other big names. This year, it was we were more reserved or angry about it. We didn't get over gas. I thought we were going to come 7th this year. It was like, no, another bad summer. The rug's going to be pulled. It's all falling apart. We started poorly, and then you got a little bit of resurgence. Then you go out the Champions League, and it's like, oh, it's just up and down. We're being linked to Poch. Half the fans want him in and out. It just feels like Ollie, LVG, Moyes all over again. We know how bad the Glazers and Wood would have been. So I'm always very negative towards the club, and I always give the example. I feel like Alfie Moon. I can't quite trust Cat Slater to not cheat on me again. It's how I feel about Man United. And it's true. So that's kind of how I feel about these things. But who knows now? Ollie has done a fantastic job to get us where we are since the 1st of Feb, and we use that as a date because Bruno came in, a big missing piece of the jigsaw. We've been the best team in England. You know, in the whole of 2020, we're the 2nd best team in England. Right now, and this is something I'm creating, so I've got to finalize it before I release it, but it's looking at points per game run rates to predict final season outcomes. Because obviously, when you look at points per game, if you have a bad start to the season, your points per game, when you average it, is going to be low. But if your trajectory is going up, you have to predict it based on if you keep growing at that percent, that rate each week, it changes during the average. So looking at that, Man United are projecting to still come 2nd, but only 1 point behind Liverpool. Equally, we might not keep progressing. We might stagnate. We might go backwards, but who knows? Liverpool not as good as they were last year. You never know with Man United. I think we could be in the title race. I think in the next 4 or 5 games, we'll know whether we're title contenders. And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, there's an outside chance we could win it. But what would be beautiful is all of these bumps in the road and these moments of turmoil and panic and heartache, if they end in something brilliant, because sometimes these horrible moments can be the catalysts for something.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Something great. And there's a famous Fergie story where Man United lost out on the title. And I want to say it was to Blackburn. And there's a lot of young United players that were in the dressing room that year. And he basically said,
Shearer one, when Kenny Dalglish won it with Blackburn.
Yeah, with Blackburn. And I think what happened is you had with Shearer at Blackburn and everything. And Fergie was saying, listen to those West Ham fans out there, to the young players. They're jeering you. That's your fuel. use that as your energy to come back and fight harder next year. And we did. And that young core group went on to do so much greatness within football. And maybe the 6-1 defeat, maybe the kind of, maybe the way the media turned on Ollie and you had Bruno come out. Bruno was the first player for me in the whole post-Fergie era to come out and call out a fake news story where they were trying to create a divide between the players and the manager. Maybe it's these moments that triggered us as fans that are actually going to help galvanize and push us forward. We don't know that yet, and there's a hell of a long way to go. But when I talk about box set stories, Ollie winning the league, honestly, in Man United's rich tapestry of history, whether you like Ollie or not, it will go down if it happens as one of the romantic and most beautiful endings to season stories ever because of all the turmoil. And I want to win the league, but equally, what a story it would make. And football's about stories, and every club that's won something will have those stories and can remember that turning point, that goal, that victory, that defeat, where everything kind of came together. And I'm hoping that's what's happened, and I'm hoping we have a good January. I'm hoping, we beat Villa tomorrow when we play them. But who knows? And I want to get behind my team, and I want to support them, and I want to have more faith and keep growing in that faith. But when you've got Rashford killing it, when you've got Bruno killing it, when you've got a man at the club like Ollie that loves the club, when you've got Maguire and Pogba and Martial's still got to come good this year.
Exactly.
There's so much we can do, but all I'm doing is tempering myself. And I know that could happen, but I'm taking it each game at a time. What's the expression? Slowly catch your monkey. Just sort of nice and ease myself into it and see what happens. Liverpool are still the favourites, but what Ollie has done, being on the brink of being sacked at least 3 times, to have turned it round now and to currently be the most informed team in the country over a prolonged period, but with the trajectory still going up, I think considering they call him the PE teacher, I think he needs so much praise for that.
100%. And listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Terry, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're a busy guy, but that is your Hogmanay New Year's Eve special from Bitz and Bobz, episode 13. Guys, if you're watching, please make sure you like and subscribe. And also, guys, all the best wishes for 2021. Peace and love to you. Terry, thank you so much for coming on.
Not a problem at all, mate. Listen, we'll share this on the Football Terrace community page as well. Get more hits. It's actually quite nice being interviewed rather than always being the interviewer. It's quite nice. I enjoyed that.
It's quite good, actually. It's quite good because it's funny because, obviously you're the host, you're the owner of the channel. It's nice to see you. And like for me, this is the kind of environment I want to bring, where I'm asking you the questions, you're answering the questions. So no, it's good. But listen, everyone, peace and love to you all. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Football Terrace as well. Have a great 2021, guys.